September 24th, 1942, Hitler's headquarters in East Prussia. A long wooden table stretches under dim lamps. Around it sit the highest officers of the German army, medals shining, faces unreadable, air thick with cigarette smoke and fear. At the head of the table, Adolf Hitler. Before him, General Franz Halder, chief of the German General Staff, the man who helped design the victories that had conquered Europe, calm, methodical, precise. But today, his precision will destroy him. The topic is Stalingrad. For 2 months, the Sixth Army has been fighting block by block through the ruins of that Soviet city. Progress is counted in yards, casualties in tens of thousands. Supply lines are stretched across hundreds of miles of open steppe. Winter is coming fast. Halder begins his report. His voice is steady, but everyone knows the danger. Facts have become dangerous things in Hitler's Germany. He lists the numbers: 80,000 casualties since August, ammunition running low, Soviet reinforcements crossing the Volga every night. The men are exhausted. Then comes the sentence that seals his fate. Mein Führer, he says, we cannot take Stalingrad with the forces available. The cost will exceed any possible gain. The room goes silent. Every man around that table understands what just happened. Halder hasn't just questioned a strategy. He's questioned Hitler himself. He's broken the rule that truth must never contradict the leader's will. For a few seconds, no one breathes. Hitler's face tightens, but he says nothing. His silence is worse than shouting. In that stillness hangs a choice between honesty and obedience, reason and faith, and everyone knows which side will win, because in Nazi Germany, loyalty matters more than logic. Doubt is treason. And Halder, the man who brought order to chaos, has just committed the one unforgivable act. He told the truth. Outside the walls of that headquarters, the front lines burn and freeze. Inside, a single sentence has changed the course of the war. The general who once planned victory has just written his own downfall, and, unknowingly, the beginning of Germany's greatest defeat. Hitler finally speaks. His voice is quiet, too quiet. You recommend withdrawal? The words hang in the air like a verdict. Every officer knows that tone. It's the sound that comes right before an explosion. You, Hitler says, eyes locked on Halder. You who have doubted every bold stroke I've ever made. You who predicted disaster in France, in Russia, and yet I delivered victory after victory. And now you tell me Stalingrad cannot be taken. Halder stands perfectly still. He knows what's coming, but he answers anyway. Mein Führer, I'm not questioning your victories. I'm reporting the facts. The Sixth Army needs 700 tons of supplies per day. We're delivering less than half. Our flanks are held by Romanian divisions without proper anti-tank weapons. Soviet forces are preparing a counterattack. If we continue, we risk encirclement of the entire army. The words fall like stones. Facts, not opinions. Reality, not rhetoric. And that's exactly what makes them intolerable. Hitler slams his hand on the table. Mathematics, logistics, always you talk about numbers. Wars are not won by accountants, they are won by willpower. His voice rises with every sentence. I conquered France in 6 weeks. I have achieved what experts said was impossible, and now you come to me with calculations. Halder doesn't flinch. Willpower doesn't move fuel to the front, he says quietly. It doesn't feed men or warm them through the winter. For a heartbeat, no one moves. The entire room is frozen between fear and awe, because Halder just said what no one else dared, that determination cannot replace reality. Hitler leans forward, his eyes blazing. You lack faith, he spits. You have no belief in victory. I need generals who believe. The silence that follows is suffocating. Everyone knows this is no longer about Stalingrad. It's about power, the power to decide what is true. At that moment, the line between truth and treason disappears. Logic has no place in a world ruled by faith in one man's will. Halder has done what every rational officer dreams of doing, telling the truth, and like every rational officer in that room, he knows exactly what it will cost him. Outside, trains full of frozen soldiers crawl toward a city that can't be taken. Inside, reason itself is being court-martialed. In that headquarters, one belief is stronger than any army, that the Führer is never wrong. The meeting ends the way a storm does, not with thunder, but with silence. No one dares speak. No one even looks at Halder. They've all seen this before. Men who questioned, men who vanished. Hitler stands. General Halder is relieved of his duties as Chief of the General Staff, effective immediately. No discussion, no explanation, just the final sentence of a career built on discipline and precision. Halder removes the insignia from his collar and places them neatly on the table. For a moment, the room seems smaller, colder. This is how honesty dies, quietly, under the weight of authority. He gives a short salute and walks out. No one follows him with their eyes. In the army of the Third Reich, silence is a form of survival. Outside, the East Prussian forest is already turning grey with autumn. Inside the building, the message is clear. Truth is not a virtue here, it's a liability. Within hours, word spreads through the upper ranks. Halder is gone. His replacement, a younger and more energetic officer, is already on the way. The machine moves on. The man who planned victory after victory is erased as if he never existed. But history doesn't erase facts, it only delays their arrival. 8 weeks later, those same facts will come roaring back from the frozen steppe. On November 19, 1942, Soviet forces launch a massive counteroffensive north and south of Stalingrad, exactly where Halder had warned they would strike. The Romanian armies on the flanks collapse within hours. German communications fall apart. Within 4 days, the entire Sixth Army, more than 250,000 men, is surrounded. The prophecy is complete. The circle closes. In his forced retirement, Halder reads the reports. Every calculation he made was correct, every warning ignored. He's not gloating. He's watching a disaster he tried to prevent unfold in slow motion. The tragedy is not that he was punished for being wrong, it's that he was punished for being right. For the generals who remain, the lesson is unmistakable. In Hitler's Germany, truth is treason, and silence is safety. From that moment on, the briefings change. Numbers are softened, bad news rephrased, reality reshaped to fit the leader's vision. And in that reshaping lies the seed of every catastrophe yet to come. Winter arrived exactly as Halder had warned. The snow came first, heavy, endless, then the cold, hard enough to freeze engines solid and kill men in their sleep. In the ruins of Stalingrad, the Sixth Army was trapped. Nearly 300,000 soldiers, cut off from supplies, surrounded by Soviet forces on every side. Inside Hitler's headquarters, maps still showed bright red arrows pushing east. On paper, victory continued. On the ground, it had already died. The Luftwaffe tried to supply the trapped army by air. It was hopeless. The numbers were simple. 700 tons of food, fuel, and ammunition needed every day. Barely 100 delivered on most days. The rest never reached the pocket. Soldiers starved. Wounded men froze to death on stretchers. Tanks sat useless without fuel. Field radios went silent one by one as batteries died. Letters home stopped, not because there was nothing to say, but because there was no one left to deliver them. And yet, Hitler refused every request to break out. "Hold Stalingrad," he ordered. "Relief is coming." Relief never came. Every warning Halder had spoken in that fateful meeting was unfolding with mathematical precision. His defeatism had simply been arithmetic. His pessimism had been physics. In December, the Sixth Army was already crippled. By January, it was dying. In February, it surrendered. 91,000 men walked into Soviet captivity. Only 6,000 would ever return home. From his forced retirement, Halder followed the disaster through intercepted reports and rumors. He didn't celebrate being right. He couldn't. Each confirmation of his predictions came with tens of thousands of deaths attached. What failed at Stalingrad wasn't just a military plan. It was an entire system built on denial. Hitler had surrounded himself with men who told him what he wanted to hear. Those who didn't were removed, one by one. The result was a command structure where no one dared to speak truth until it was too late for anyone to listen. By the time Hitler accepted that the Sixth Army was doomed, it was no longer an army at all, just starving survivors freezing in cellars, still waiting for orders that made no sense. The tragedy of Stalingrad wasn't only that it was lost, it was that it had to be lost for the truth to be proven. And for Halder, watching from exile, it confirmed what he had always feared, that in a system where truth is forbidden, reality itself becomes the enemy. Franz Halder survived the war. He was arrested by the Americans in 1945, questioned, then eventually asked to help them understand how the German army had fought and how it had failed. In that role, he did what he'd always done best. He analyzed. He described a system where loyalty replaced competence, where fear silenced reason, and where bad news was edited until it sounded like good news. He showed how Hitler's obsession with control turned the general staff into an echo chamber, one voice repeating itself until it drowned out reality. In his post-war diaries, Halder wrote with the same calm precision that had doomed him years earlier. The German army, he noted, did not lose at Stalingrad because it lacked courage, but because it lacked honesty. For him, it wasn't about revenge or redemption. It was about understanding how a great institution collapsed from the inside, not because of its enemies, but because it stopped listening to itself. That's the real legacy of Stalingrad. It's more than a battle. It's a warning. When leaders punish truth, they don't just silence individuals, they blind entire nations. When people confuse loyalty with obedience, they trade victory for comfort. And when facts are treated as betrayal, failure becomes inevitable. Halder lived long enough to see Germany rebuilt, to see his reputation partially restored, and to see historians confirm what he'd said in that smoky room back in 1942. He was right, but being right had come at a terrible cost, because truth without belief is powerless, and honesty without courage is just silence. The day Hitler fired Franz Halder wasn't just the end of one man's career. It was the moment Germany lost its last voice of reason, the moment truth itself was dismissed from command. From that day forward, every briefing, every report, every decision was shaped not by what was real, but by what the Führer wished to be real. And in that gap between wish and fact, an empire collapsed. Halder's story still echoes far beyond the ruins of Stalingrad. It's about governments, companies, movements, any place where power grows louder than truth. The same pattern repeats: silence the honest, reward the loyal, and watch reality come crashing in. Because truth doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It only waits, and then it arrives all at once. If you found this story as powerful as we did, thank you for watching. Subscribe for more untold moments that changed history, and stories of people who dared to speak when silence was easier.